why chasing the bag is killing us, and why choosing you first is the real revolution. Good evening, y'all. Welcome to the Soft Girl Era podcast, where we unlearn survival, rediscover softness, and reclaim the joy, rest, and freedom we deserve without guilt, without apology, and without explanation. I'm your host, LeAnne Dolce, pronounced Dole say, like sweet softness whispered in French. And tonight, I'm honored to share some powerful insights with you. I recently had the opportunity to interview Jenina Ortega, also known as Nina9, a visionary entrepreneur from Riverdale, Georgia, who is making the world a better place by showing Black women that choosing love and mental health over money first is not just possible, it's revolutionary. Janina Nina9 is a trailblazer, a truth teller, and a living testament to the power of faith, resilience, and community impact. She's rewriting the rules on what it means to build wealth without losing yourself in the process. And tonight, I want to share what I learned from her and from the stories of other incredible Black women who are redefining what success really means. Now, let me ask you something. How many of us have been taught that the only way to make it is to hustle harder, grind longer, and sacrifice everything, including our peace, our joy, and our mental health? How many of us have been told that rest is lazy, that softness is weakness, and that if we're not constantly doing, we're not worthy? I know I have, and I know many of you listening and have too. But what if I told you that everything we've been taught about success is backwards? What if I told you that choosing your mental health, choosing love, choosing rest is not just an act of self care, it's an act of self preservation and empowerment? See, we've been sold a lie. We've been told that more is always better. More money, more opportunities, more hustle, more grind. But what happens when more becomes too much? What happens when the weight of constantly doing, constantly achieving, constantly proving ourselves crushes us? What happens when we lose ourselves in the pursuit of success? Janina, Nina9, shared with me that the journey from adversity to abundance is not linear. It's messy, it's complicated, and it requires us to make choices that the world might not understand. And one of the most radical choices we can make as Black women entrepreneurs is to choose love and mental health over money first. Now, I know what some of y'all are thinking. LeAnne, how am I supposed to pay my bills if I'm not chasing the bag? How am I supposed to take care of my family if I'm not grinding 24/7? And I hear you, sis, I really do. But here's the thing, when we prioritize our mental health, when we choose love, when we choose rest, we're not abandoning our responsibilities. We're actually setting ourselves up for sustainable success. We're building a foundation that can't be shaken. We're creating a life that's not just about surviving, but about thriving. Let me tell you about Malik Teal. Malik is a Black woman entrepreneur who founded Curlbox, subscription based service for natural hair products right here in Atlanta, Georgia. Now, Malik could have followed the traditional path. She could have conformed to industry norms, hustled until she burned out, and sacrificed her mental health for the sake of success. But she didn't. Before Curlbox, Malik worked in public relations, and let me tell you, she was exhausted. She was running on fumes. She knew what it felt like to be overwhelmed, to be stretched so thin that she couldn't even recognize herself anymore. She faced skepticism from investors who didn't believe in her vision. She felt the pressure to conform, to fit into a mold that wasn't made for her. And on top of all that, she was battling her own mental health struggles as she tried to scale her business. But instead of pushing through, instead of ignoring the signs, Myleek made a choice. She leaned into her authentic story. She prioritized transparency with her community. And most importantly, she sought therapy to address her mental health needs. She chose self care and love over relentless hustle. And you know what happened? Curlbox became a multi-million-dollar brand, empowering thousands of Black women to embrace their natural hair and their self worth. Curlbox has been featured in Forbes and Essence, and Myleik is recognized as a leader in the Black hair care industry. But more than that, her journey has inspired other Black women to pursue entrepreneurship while prioritizing mental wellness. She didn't just build a business, she built a movement. She showed us that success doesn't have to come at the cost of our sanity. Now, let's talk about Tiffany Aliche, also known as the Budgetnista. Tiffany is a Black financial educator and entrepreneur who transformed her life after losing everything in the 2008 recession. Y'all, Tiffany faced financial ruin, depression, and self doubt. She questioned whether she could ever recover and thrive. She lost her job, she lost her home, she had to move in with family. Can you imagine that? Going from financial stability to losing everything? Tiffany started sharing her story online, not because she had it all figured out, but because she wanted to help others avoid the same pitfalls she had experienced. She was vulnerable. She was real. She was honest about her struggles. And instead of giving up, instead of letting her circumstances define her, Tiffany chose to prioritize her mental health. She sought support from her community and she rebuilt her career by teaching financial literacy to women. But here's the thing: Tiffany didn't just rebuild her life, she became a New York Times best-selling author and grew the Budgetnista into a multi-million dollar business. She helped pass the Budgetnista law in New Jersey, making financial education mandatory for middle school students. Her work has empowered countless Black women to achieve financial independence and emotional healing. But it all started with a choice to prioritize her mental health, a choice to seek support, a choice to believe that she was worthy of healing and success. Tiffany showed us that financial success and mental health are not mutually exclusive. In fact, they go hand in hand. When we heal, we create space for abundance. When we prioritize our well being, we make better decisions. When we choose ourselves, we open the door to opportunities we never thought possible. Now, I want to talk about Trisha Hersey, the founder of the NAP Ministry. Trisha is a Black woman from Atlanta who founded the NAP Ministry to promote rest as a form of resistance and healing for Black communities. Y'all, Trisha faced chronic burnout, trauma, and societal pressure to constantly hustle, which negatively impacted her mental health. She was exhausted, she was depleted, she was running on empty. And she realized that the hustle culture we've been sold is literally killing us. So instead of continuing to push through, instead of wearing her exhaustion like a badge of honor, Trisha embraced rest, she embraced spirituality, she embraced community care, and she began advocating for rest as essential for liberation and success. The NAP ministry has grown into a national movement, shifting conversations around rest, productivity, and healing in Black spaces. Trisha published a best selling book and has been featured in major media outlets, influencing policy and culture. But more than that, her work has redefined success for Black women entrepreneurs by centering mental health and rest. She's shown us that rest is not lazy, rest is revolutionary, rest is resistance, rest is how we reclaim our power. Trisha's personal battles with exhaustion and trauma led her to explore rest as a radical act, transforming her life and those of others. She's teaching us that we don't have to earn rest. We don't have to prove that we're worthy of it. Rest is our birthright. Now, let me bring this back to what Jenina Nina9 shared with me. She said that true success as a millionaire businesswoman comes from faith, resilience, and community impact, not just financial gain. Prayers and positive intentions are as important as business strategy. Y'all, let that sink in. Prayers and positive intentions are as important as business strategy. We've been taught to separate our faith from our work, to separate our spirituality from our success. But what if our faith is the foundation of our success? What if our prayers are what sustain us when everything else falls apart? What if the real power comes not from how hard we work, but from how deeply we trust? Jenina also shared that healing from trauma, loss, and abuse is an ongoing process, and prioritizing mental health is essential for sustaining entrepreneurial success and personal growth. Y'all, healing is not a one time event. It's not something we check off our to do list and move on from. Healing is a journey, it's a process, it's something we have to commit to every single day. And when we prioritize our mental health, when we commit to our healing, we're not just helping ourselves, we're helping our families, our communities, and the generations that come after us. Now, I want to be real with y'all for a minute. This journey is not easy. Choosing love and mental health over money first is not the path of least resistance. It requires courage, it requires faith, it requires us to trust that we are worthy of rest, worthy of healing, worthy of joy. And for those of us who have survived trauma, loss, and abuse, it requires us to believe that our past does not define our future. But here's what I know to be true: when we choose ourselves, when we prioritize our mental health, when we embrace softness, we're not just surviving, we're thriving. We're creating a life that's not just about financial success, but about emotional freedom, spiritual grounding, and authentic joy. We're building a legacy that's not just about what we accomplish, but about who we become in the process. Think about Myleik, who chose therapy over burnout and built a multi-million dollar brand. Think about Tiffany, who chose vulnerability over shame and transformed her financial ruin into a movement that's changing lives. Think about Trisha, who chose rest over a hustle and created a national conversation about the importance of rest as resistance. These women didn't choose the easy path, they chose the path that honored their humanity. They chose to prioritize their mental health, their healing, and their well being. And because of that, they didn't just succeed, they revolutionized what success looks like for Black women. So, y'all, after hearing these stories, after hearing what Jenina Nina9 shared with me, I want you to ask yourself this: what's one thing you can do today to choose your mental health and self love over chasing the bag? How will you make sure your journey to success includes healing, rest, and community so no weapon formed against you or your family can prosper? How are you learning to be soft in a world that taught you survival? Because here's the truth, sis: softness is not weakness, softness is strength, softness is power, softness is how we reclaim our joy, our peace, and our freedom. And when we choose softness, when we choose rest, when we choose healing, we're not just changing our own lives, we're changing the world. I want to leave you with this: the revolution is not in the hustle. The revolution is in the rest. The power is not in the grind. The power is in the grace. The success is not in the sacrifice. The success is in the softness. So I'm challenging you today, right now, to make a choice. Choose you. Choose your mental health. Choose your healing. Choose your rest. Not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. Not because the world will understand, but because you deserve it. Not because you've earned it, but because it's your birthright. And if you're sitting here thinking, but LeAnne, I don't know where to start, I don't know how to choose myself when I've spent my whole life choosing everyone else, then start small. Start with one boundary. Start with one no. Start with one moment of rest. Start with one prayer. Start with one deep breath. Start with one decision to prioritize your peace over someone else's expectations. Because that one small choice, that one act of self love, that one moment of choosing you can change everything. It can change your business. It can change your relationships. It can change your legacy. It can change your life. So here's my call to action for you. I want you to take out your phone right now or grab a piece of paper And I want you to write down one thing, just one thing that you're going to do this week to choose your mental health over the hustle. Maybe it's scheduling a therapy session. Maybe it's saying no to a commitment that drains you. Maybe it's taking a nap without guilt. Maybe it's praying before you plan. Maybe it's these asking for help instead of carrying it all alone. Whatever it is, I want you to commit to it. Write it down. Share it with someone you trust. Hold yourself accountable because this is how we change the narrative. This is how we redefine success. This is how we build a world where Black women don't have to choose between their mental health and their money, between their peace and their purpose, between their softness and their strength. We can have it all. But it starts with choosing ourselves first. Let's make it a miracle together. Amen. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for choosing you. Now go out there and revolutionize what success looks like. One soft, powerful, healing choice at a time.